If I were to describe Flow, I would say it's a post-apocalyptic Homeward bound with no voiceover, no talking. Flow is a Latvian silent movie about a cat struggling to survive on its own after the apocalypse. But when a mass flood destroys its home, it finds a boat occupied by several other animals, and must learn to coexist with them as they come across other creatures, and hopefully sail to a safer, more habitable land. If you've seen director Gints Zilbalodis' shorts on YouTube, or his debut movie Away, which he wrote, directed, animated, and scored all by himself, you know that he's excellent at taking cheaper animation and making it look more stylish through the camera work and color palette that honestly makes it more impressive than your average blockbuster. But with a bigger budget this time around, he's able to make more detailed, fluid, vibrant, and colorful animation where the designs and textures of animals, locations, even elements like ocean waves and rain look three-dimensional in such a convincing way. And the cinematography is just massive in scope, where there are so many epic wide establishing shots that are just gorgeous to look at, whether it's the boat sailing through the ocean during a storm, or the cat underwater staring at all of these schools of fish. Just look incredible. But easily the money shot of the movie starts off with this epic wide of a statue the cat is crawling, and then it ends on a close-up of the cat looking over the horizon, all in one unbroken take. In fact, it wasn't until 5 minutes in the first time I watched this movie that I realized the majority of these scenes are actually told in Revenant-style long takes that are made to look handheld, and there was so much precision in regards to the staging, how the speed of the camera and the animals running through can make the scene even more intense to watch was just seamlessly impressive. You keep forgetting how much effort it takes to make these things look so easy, especially in animation. Zilbalodis is also great at telling visual stories where dialogue is just impossible to use. With Away, it was about a young boy who had no one to talk to, or at least no one who could talk back, which would explain the constant silence. But with Flow, humans are already extinct by the time the story even begins. Every character is a nonverbal animal, so he has the trickier task of relying on different facial features, body language, and animal noises than we're used to portray what the characters are experiencing in a way that feels realistic, where the smallest change in expression from a raised eyebrow or a smile can make a huge difference. But again, he and his animation department just make it look so easy to the point where every character feels unique in regards to their personalities. You feel as if all of them actually have character arcs, or most of them anyways. And you believe that these guys become genuine friends and a team to the point where during the last 5 minutes where they embrace the bond that they had, I actually started tearing up a little bit. Whenever they bark for joy or moan in fear for their lives, the cutesiness of it actually makes it more relatable and intense to watch because they're animals. They clearly never prepared for a situation like this before. The beautiful musical score also adds so much emotional weight to what the characters are experiencing, but the movie's wise in knowing when to rely on music or when to let the ambience of waves crashing against each other or birds and insects chirping to let that set the atmosphere. I remember Zilbalodis at TIFF, because he actually gave an opening speech before the screening, talk about how he was so used to working independently on Away that once he had a budget and an animation crew for Flow, he ironically had to learn how to be a team player the same way the cat does in this movie. It starts off so reclusive and independent, still clearly grieving over the loss of its master, the one person it definitely trusted, and once on the boat, is so skeptical of the other animals, even when they're compassionate towards it, that it tries to keep its distance all the time, until one animal sticks its neck out on the line for it when it didn't even have to, that it realizes how selfish it was acting the entire time. And the cat learns from that act of selflessness, starting to face its own fears, not just for its own sake, but for the survival of the other animals. If we're talking who the cutest animal in the movie was, my audience absolutely adored the capybara, and for good reason. It had such a laid-back, carefree personality, but was still more than willing to help out compared to everyone else in the movie, even when they didn't want it to, in regards to steering the ship, gathering food or supplies that were lost overboard, and everyone remembers his acts of kindness by the end of it, and it really does pay off for it in the end. The only animal I didn't connect to that much was the lemur, who's territorial, kind of like the cat, but moreover possessions it collects, like human bottles and mirrors that it refuses to share with the others. And I get the underlying theme where it has to learn to forge friendships with animals that actually care for its well-being, as opposed to its own lemur tribe that cares more about the material possessions, but I didn't get the sense that it really learned its lesson or actually shared anything with the other crew members. Last but certainly not least, there's this Secretarybird that's basically the reluctant wise sage of the group who risks being ostracized by its own herd for protecting them, that to talk about it in great detail would be to spoil half the movie, but it has some of the most emotional scenes in the entire film, especially one moment where it and the cat witness the aurora borealis on a cliff, and there's so much of it that's left up to interpretation in the best possible way, but just from a substance level, the music, the animation, the emotions you experience during that scene, it was just heartbreaking and gorgeous to look at. Now, if there's one problem I've noticed with modern-day silent movies, which I know is a weird thing to say, but there have been 4 or 5 silent movies in 2024 alone, and I love that they're having a comeback, but one thing they gotta work on, especially with rewatchability, is the pacing. There's more pressure on a silent movie to not repeat the same scenarios over and over again. So when the crew is sailing through the canals of a former city, arguing with one another, and then rinse and repeat 5 minutes later without anything done differently, it does bog down the runtime, which is a shame because it's only an hour and 20, and I can't say there was ever a dull moment because everything was just beautiful to look at. But I do think that if they spend more time on the Lemur or the Secretarybird, fleshing them out as characters more than what we got, I think the bonds between them would have been worth sitting through the more slower, laid-back moments. But honestly, I recommend the hell out of Flow. The animation is gorgeous, the visual storytelling is insane, the music is beautiful, and it's the rare movie where kids and adults can equally enjoy it for the exact same reasons. In fact, my theater the second time around had parents, grandparents, kids, just regular couples who were my age coming to see it just because they wanted to. And weirdly enough, the amount of times I complain about people who won't stop talking and playing on their phones, a silent movie, they all behave themselves, and if that's not enough proof that we need more silent movies and visual storytelling, I don't know what the fuck is. But in any case, guys, thanks as always for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think about Flow. Be sure to stay tuned for more reviews. Be sure to check me out on Patreon and buy me a coffee. And be sure to like and subscribe. Take care.